Okay, kids, let's get to another video. All right, I saw some confused faces there in the crowd this week when I was doing some of the monetary policy. So I thought maybe it would make sense to put together a quick video. All right, well, quick and my videos. All right, but anyway, let's get down to work. So we have Mr. Moyle, Goofy, who's got some money laying around, right? So Goofy has $100,000 in a shoebox in his closet, right? And we'll call him Goofy for no reason. Now, he has decided to put it in the bank for safekeeping. All right? Yeah, it's Goofy. Maybe he's not so goofy. Maybe he knows what he's doing here. All right? So what happens is the Goofster is going to put the $100,000 into the bank. So we're going to assume that Goofy's money is the only money in M1. Okay, it's the only money in circulation. All right, so we have the bank where Goofy wants to put his money. Okay, we have M1, which is $100,000 in currency, nothing in checkable deposits right now. Because as you can see on the video, Goofy's got all the cash in his hands. Right? Next thing we need to do is we need to assume the reserve ratio is 10%. All right? Now, Goofy goes, he puts the money in Bank A. You'll notice that M1 does not change, but where the money is does. It moves from currency into checkable deposits. All right, Bank A must hold 10%. That's what we said. So Bank A must hold 10% of all deposits. So 10% of 100,000 is $10,000, which means the required reserve. So the whole 100,000 is reserves, but there's required reserves, which is what they're required to hold, which is 10,000. That means they have excess reserves of 90,000. Total reserves of 100, 90 excess, 10 required. Now, if we did a quick little balance sheet, we would see required reserves 10,000 as an asset, excess reserves of 90,000 as an asset, and liabilities of 100,000. All right, so Bank A decides to lend money to Woody, right? Who wouldn't lend money to a woodpecker? Okay, so there is now $90,000 in currency that didn't exist before, right? The checkable deposits in Bank A is still $100,000 for Goofs, right? And now Woody's got 90,000. So M1 increases by $90,000. So if we look here, M1 has currency of 90,000, which is Woody's, and checkable deposits $100,000, which is Goofy's. Right? And now the only thing that changes is the excess reserves are now called loans, and that's 90,000, and that is an asset. All right. Woody then deposits the 90,000 in Bank B. Okay? Same rules hold. Bank B must hold 10%. 90,000 times 0.10 equals 9,000. Means we have $9,000 of required reserves. If we have 9,000 required reserves, we have excess of 81,000. Quick look at Bank B's balance sheet. They have 9,000 in required reserves, 81,000 in excess reserves, liabilities of 90,000. Okay, M1 is now the currency that Woody had is now moved into checkable deposits in the banking system. So the banking system now has $190,000. Keep in mind that 90,000 didn't exist until Bank A made a loan to the Woodster. Okay? Bank B. Let's look at what Bank B. Bank B lends 81,000 to Taz. There is now $81,000 in currency that did not exist before. M1 increases by 81,000 because if we pull it up here, the currency is now 81,000. Woody's got 90,000 in checkable deposits, and Goof's got 100,000 in checkable deposits. If we look at Bank B, this is what their balance sheet would look like. Required reserves 9,000, loans 81,000, demand deposits 90,000. Okay? Now, let's say Taz deposits the 81,000 in Bank C. Okay, Bank C must hold 10%, which is 8,100. Required reserves are 8,100. Excess reserves are 72,900. Again, the balance sheet, we get the required reserves, we get the excess reserves, and now we look at M1, which is 271,000 checkable deposits. The only money that existed before this whole thing started was the 100,000 in the shoebox that Goofy had. $171,000 was created from the lending, right? So look at this. Goofy has $100,000 in the shoebox. Before he decided to put it in the bank for safekeeping, M1 was 100,000. When he puts it in, it goes from 100,000 to 271,000. This is accomplished through lending. Loans create money. Let's not forget that. But wait, we're not done. What happened to the 81,000 that Taz deposited in Bank C? Is there not a cartoon character who would like to borrow $81,000? Well, if they are, please tell them to contact me. All right? Now, we look at Bank C. They would have 81,000 deposits. They would have to hold 8,100, we said. They could lend out 72,900, which means that 72,900 would then be deposited into Bank D. They would have to hold 7,200. I get it. They would have to hold 7,290. I made a mistake. Sue me. This is why erasers or pencils have erasers. It's also why erasers have pencils. I don't know if you've ever thought of it that way, okay? Loans of 65,700. All right, Bank E has a deposit of 65,700. They hold 6,570. They lend out 59,130. Okay, and then we do Bank F. You see where we're going with this, right? I don't know about you, but I'm tired of talking about it. So you get the point. So how much money will be created from Goofy's $100,000 deposit? So let's remember that M1 was $0 in currency, and it will have checkable deposits of $1 million. When we go through all the banks from A to Z, I guess, right, we would have $1 million in deposits, which means required reserves would be 100,000, liabilities would be 1 million, loans would be 900,000. Goofy's $100,000 deposit created $900,000 in loans, giving the banking system a total of $1 million. Okay. How did you know that, Mr. Mooney? I know you're so smart. Oh, thanks, Sim. But here's how I figured it out. The banking multiplier says 1 over the reserve ratio is equal to the banking multiplier. 1 over 0.10, which was the example in this case, gives us 10. Now, 2 ways to do it. I don't care which one, but you must show your work. 100,000 times 10 minus 100,000. So 100,000 times 10 is 1 million. Minus 100,000 equals 900,000. So that's what we came up with. Or we could do the excess reserves from the first bank, which was 90,000, times that by 10, and you get 900,000. Because we did not create 1 million, because the original 100,000 was in the money supply when this all started, right? So let's do a little example here. So we have the banking multiplier, right? What if the reserve ratio was 20%, not 10%? That would make the multiplier 5. That would give us 100,000 times 5 minus 100,000, which would give us 400,000. Or Bank A would have held 80,000, which would have been the excess reserves, times 5, which would have been 400,000. Now we could go the other way, and we could have the reserve ratio be 5%, which would get us a multiplier of 20. 100,000 times 20 is 2 million, minus the initial 100,000 gives us 1,900,000. Or the first bank had excess reserves of 95,000 times 20, which would give them 1,900,000. So you have just been shown tool number 1 of monetary policy, reserve requirements. To increase the money supply, you would lower the reserve requirements. To increase the money supply, you lower the reserve requirement. To lower the money supply, you would raise the reserve requirement. The amount of money created and the reserve requirement have an inverse relationship. Okay, that's how I feel.